All right, we are now recording. For this evening, I'm going to start off by introducing ourselves, but as we go through the presentation, if you have questions, feel free to add them into the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat and answering questions that way. And once again, this will be recorded and we will be uploading to YouTube. So if you do not want to be on there, just turn your camera off. At the end of our presentation, we should have time to take additional questions too. And let's go ahead and get started. So we'll start with introductions. My name is Amy Kaler and I'm the coordinator or principal for Star Academy. And with me tonight, I have Krista Hillig, Dana Perez, Danielle Monroy, Joanna Carballo, and Francesca Donato. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will get started with our presentation. And then once again, as we're presenting, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat for the group. So thank you, third grade families, for joining us tonight about our hybrid plan. This is an extension of the presentation I did a couple weeks ago of the overall Star Academy hybrid plan. So this will give you more specific details on what to expect for your third graders. In creating this plan, these first couple of slides are just a review from the last presentation. We are having safety, consistency, and stability as our driving forces behind what we are doing. As we move forward in our hybrid transition, we have already done our signups, which were the beginning of November, where you picked if you wanted to be hybrid A track or B track, and that's that preference that you had, and we're doing our best to meet that preference and make sure that siblings are on the same track. Or if you were deciding to do extended distance learning for the remainder of the year. Over the last few weeks since you did the signups, our staff has been building classes. So for every grade level, we had to go back to scratch. We're trying to do our best to keep students with their teachers, but at the same time meet the preferences of the families and keep siblings together. And then this week on Friday, you will receive an email with your child's assignment. So it will say, this will be your teacher for second semester, so starting January 4th and moving forward through the end of the school year, which I believe ends on June 11th. In this, it will also say if your child's extended distance learning, hybrid, and if they're hybrid, if they're A track or B track. And then moving, we will once again be transitioning to this new teacher on January 4th. So when we come back from winter break, but our transition date for hybrid is now a rolling start date due to the regional health guidelines that we're in right now. So as soon as the region goes back into red or orange or yellow, we will open within a short period of time, about 2 weeks to transition into that. Oops. I don't know why it doesn't like that button. So once again, we're trying to create a supportive hybrid model. This will include having designated hybrid teachers, designated distance learning teacher, and then also we have hired our distance learning facilitator who will help support the distance learning teacher and the hybrid teacher in ensuring our students who are virtual have the supports that they need. And then once again, we want to continue to be as consistent as possible. So if your child is on extended distance learning, the third grade team will tell you what their day will look like, but it will be very similar to what they're doing right now. Some of the things to think about if your child will be on hybrid are in-person days. We really want to focus on maximizing that time and the interaction of students with each other and building relationships and that social emotional aspect. So those will be low technology to no technology days when they're actually stepping foot on the campus. And then the teachers once again will go into some more details around this different information of whole group instruction, independent practice, and office hours. And then our daily schedule for hybrid and distance learning will stay the same as what we have now. The only difference will be that morning start time, the soft start time. And then when they're on campus, and then when they're on campus, they'll also have the dismissal time, which would change somewhat from what you're doing right now in distance learning. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the third grade team to go through their plan.
Right, hello everyone, this is Mrs. Caraballo. So as you can see on the screen, this is the third grade team. We have Ms. DeHillig. She will be taking the distance learning teacher role for the second half of the year. And then Ms. Perez, Ms. Monroy, and myself will be the hybrid in-person teachers when we do transition back to hybrid. And then we also have Ms. Luna. She's our distance learning facilitator. So she's starting to join our team, and we are working out plans for her and things like that. So your students will be meeting her over this week or next week. She'll be joining our Zoom meeting so that they can get familiar with her as well. And then Mr. Hillig, I'll pass it off to you for the distance learning slide.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. So again, I'm Krista Hillig. I'll be the distance learning teacher for the third grade team. And this slide that you're looking at now is what a distance learning day will look like in the spring. And so in keeping with the spirit of continuity and familiarity for the students and the families, there really won't be much change here, and that is by design. You will see on the slides that the day is structured as it is now, of course, starting with our morning meeting and going into our math lessons and workshops, our synchronous and asynchronous specials, followed by break time, science and social studies, writing, lunch, reading, and then independent work time from 1 until 3 o'clock, with virtual office hours being from 1:30 to 2:15. The big difference from the winter to the spring is going to be the addition of a distance learning facilitator. Mrs. Luna will be working with all 4 of us throughout the semester in adding that additional support in small groups and interventions and remediations as needed. And of course, this schedule is subject to change as needed, especially during our transition into hybrid. Mrs. Kaler, thank you. And Mrs. Caraballo, did you want to take the hybrid?
Yep, I will talk about this one. So this is kind of an idea of when your students come to school, when we do transition to hybrid, what their day will look like. Not so much in terms of schedule. We wanted to really focus on kind of what we will be doing, what they will be doing. The schedule of our day will mimic what the students on distance learning are doing in terms of when reading will be, when writing and math. So we will keep it the same like they are used to right now, to just go along with that consistency, what they are used to, what they are comfortable with. So this slide kind of outlines just some parts of our day so that you know and the students will know and be comfortable kind of as they transition from doing school at home to doing school at school again. So a couple of the materials they'll definitely want to be bringing to school every day is their binder. That will be going with them back and forth because it has all of the curriculum, all of the materials, and they'll need things in the classroom, and then they will also need it for the at-home learning. Their lunch and a water bottle, I think will be at the point where I'm not sure even if drinking fountains will be accessible. So water bottles are really important that they have one so that it's theirs at their seat. And then of course a mask. So those are the things we'll want them to bring with them every day. And then you can kind of see we have it outlined throughout the day. So as Ms. Kaler mentioned, soft start in the morning, that gives the students that gradual drop-off time. So as soon as they arrive to school, they'll come straight into the classroom where they will get their hand sanitizer, time to wash hands, so they can come in with that safety in mind. As they come in, they'll come to their seat and they'll all have independent kind of activities to do. It might be something hands-on, some silent reading, some review materials, something kind of tactile, manipulative, just to kind of warm up their brains and their bodies for the day. At 8:30 when class starts for both hybrid in-person as well as hybrid at home and the extended distance learning students will be our class meeting as it follows along like it does now. The one thing that will be different is we will have obviously students in the class and then the hybrid students who are at their at home. So if it's like a Monday, the track B students would log into Zoom with our class. And we really want to do that to make sure they maintain those class connections, since the classes, you know, they won't be all on the same at the same time on Zoom like we are now. We want to make sure they have time to see those friends who might be on a different track, share with them, connect with them. So they'll be logging in and it'll be displayed in the classroom, and we'll all be able to have that time together to just keep that class community going. So in class, as Mrs. Kaler talked about earlier, the focus is really going to be on like the teacher-student direct interaction. They won't, as you notice, they won't be bringing their computers or their Chromebooks to school with them, because we want to make sure that they spend enough time on their at-home learning. On the computer, we want to make sure when they're in the classroom, we're giving them that direct instruction that is really important. So that'll look like a lot of small group, individual instruction, things like that, a chance to talk with their peers face to face, socially distanced, of course. All students will have individual supplies. We have been separating those out, making sure they have their own pencil boxes that will stay with their items. You know, in the past, we had a lot of shared things like markers and glue sticks, and they would, you know, share things at their tables. Each student will have their own things to maintain that safety as well. And then, of course, hand washing and sanitizer throughout the day as they come in, we go out. So just that classroom time will be a really good chance for us to give that really close instruction with those students that are in person those days. During recess and lunch, we're going to keep the cohorts to get among themselves. So during recess, we'll be outside as much as we can. Obviously, the teachers will be staying with the cohorts so that we can keep, just have them making sure that they're following all of the safety guidelines to keep them as safe as possible. We'll have different designated spaces just to keep our cohort of students together so that we can stay as safe as we can outside. And that'll look the same at lunchtime. They'll have a designated spot, an area, and keeping those cohorts together. And then as you see during pickup time, we'll follow all those guidelines. We'll be outside and it'll look the same across all the grades. And then, so the at-home independent work for the in-person hybrid days, students obviously won't be able to probably start till around 1:30 or so, giving them that time to head home. This is a great time to get some PE minutes in, especially when the weather is nice and you can get outside in your backyard. And then continuing with those iReady lessons, as well as any other review and finishing schoolwork that they might have scheduled or planned for that afternoon. So that's kind of just a brief overview of what it'll look like when they're in person. And then on the next slide, we have, we will have, obviously the hybrid students will have in-person days and virtual days. Their virtual days will look slightly similar in terms of schedule of what they're doing to kind of how we're doing it now, especially perhaps on like a Wednesday, but then they're going to have that support from the distance learning teacher and our distance learning facilitator. So I'll kind of talk about what that might look like because that's where some differences will be for the students. So as I said before, those students who are on their virtual hybrid day will still log into class at 8:30 till about 9 o'clock for that class meeting. That way they're still connecting to their classmates with their teacher and just having that kind of opening to the day of their learning. And then after at 9 o'clock, when they log off of that Zoom, it'll be independent work time. However, there's some, and you can kind of see we have a little description of what that looks like. So it'll be independent work time with some support. As you can see at the bottom, we have some login times. Those are login times where it will be a direct teaching lesson from the distance learning teacher, Mr. Hillig. So for example, at 9 o'clock starts a third grade math block. So those at-home virtual hybrid learners will have the option to log in at 9 o'clock to hear the direct instruction. This might look for math if we're starting a new concept that week. They're going to get that direct teaching from that distance learning teacher. Maybe it's, on area and perimeter, or whatever the math concept might be. Then they will be excused to head off and work on their math page independently for the day. Now, throughout the course of the day, they might have a question. And that is where we will have or need some support. That we have our distance learning facilitator who will be available and will, as we get closer to this time, when we do transition to hybrid, we will definitely kind of share what that would look like and how they would do that with you. And so you can see there's the different times. As Mr. Hillig shared, schedules are subject to change. If anything were to change in terms of those times, we would obviously definitely let everyone know ahead of time. But as of now, those are the times, that direct learning. And it'll be really important that students log in really punctually at those times, so as not to disturb the class, and that makes sure you're maximizing that direct learning time with the distance learning teacher so that they will feel supported and feel confident to start their independent work. And then of course, when they come on their in-person days, they will have, again, support from the in-person hybrid teachers, as well as in the afternoon during those virtual office hours with their hybrid teacher. So again, that's kind of just an overview of what virtual hybrid days will look like.
Third grade team, we have some questions about in person. Would you like me to wait or till the end, or is now a good time?
Now would be great, yeah.
Okay, so we have questions about if they should bring a backpack and what types of lunch situation, what kind of things they should bring for lunch.
I believe students can bring a backpack. We've talked about having, so in the past we've done the backpack rack where they're all hanging their backpacks together. I believe we're getting bins or crates, or we'll have something with the students at their desk so they can keep their items with them. That way they can bring their binder and their water bottle and lunch. And what was the other part of that? Was there a second part?
If there was anything specific as far as suggestions for lunch, I mean, the lunchtime is.
Yeah, it's definitely a shorter lunch period to allow for the shorter day in terms of at school. So I would say just things that students are able to open easily on their own, things they're able to eat quickly, that don't take a lot of maybe putting together, just typical sandwich, a nice, carrots and apple slices, things like that, with their water bottles, and it would probably be great ideas.
So the next question we have is the pickup time, specifically for students who are in hybrid, what time that is, and then some clarification about that 1:30 to 3 o'clock independent time after home arrival.
Yeah, so 1 o'clock will still be our dismissal time for students in hybrid in person. And then in the afternoon, it'll look similar to the afternoon work they're doing now in terms of some iReady lesson. That's a great time. We usually schedule that into our day. as well as some review activities. Great time to also, we put in to do some PE minutes, and that can look a lot of different ways. You can use any of our PE links that we have that we put out on Wednesdays, as well as anything that's active and getting those bodies moving.
I also know that for special education or small group interventions will also take
Yes,
place during that time.
I'm watching your parent meeting, but you can.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll back up through here. Miss Kaler, can you explain the specials schedule as
Sure. So for
what
specials,
that's going to look like?
for specials, when we are in the hybrid model, our students on their track days, so if they're on A track, they would get their specials on Monday and Tuesday in person. If they're B track, they would get them on Thursday and Friday in person. And if your student is an extended distance learning student, then they will get their specials during the week, throughout the week, during a specific period of time with their class, their extended distance learning class.
Also, Mrs. Kaler, the question regarding distance learning versus hybrid, I know we did not keep percentage numbers on those because they're variable from class to class, from grade to grade.
Mhm.
So we did not keep specific data on that.
Yeah, we do not have percentages. We did the priority that we did was to do our best to give parents the priority they requested, which was if they said A or hybrid track A was their priority or hybrid track B was their priority. And then if you're extended distance learning, you'll automatically go to that teacher. But your preference, I guess, versus priority, your preference was what we took into highest consideration, and then also ensuring that students with siblings are on the same track as their sibling. And then we did our best to keep students with the teachers that they already have, but that was not a guarantee, and we were not able to completely accommodate that for everybody just because of the shuffling that needs to happen to ensure that we have a distance learning teacher in some grade levels, 2 distance learning teachers. So we did our best to minimize as many changes as possible, but also tried to do our best to ensure that the majority of people got their preference that they requested.
And as far as specials, the students will be receiving, they will, based on their schedule, they will still receive all 4. They will still receive Spanish, art, Kind Kids Club, and library. The schedule will look a little different, but the parent who asked, all students will be still receiving all 4 specials.
Correct. Every child will still receive all four specials. Are you ready to move forward, or was that all the questions for now?
I think that's a good place to keep moving forward.
Thanks.
And so this is our sample Wednesday schedule. And again, this is for the spring. And you can see again that this independent day is not going to change for any of the students. For all of our students, hybrid and extended distance learning, this will be their independent work day, with the exception, of course, of our morning meeting, which is live at 9:30 every Wednesday. So from 9:30 to 10, we will be with the students, checking in with them, lining up the day. And then we will go on with the day as they follow on with the slides as they do now. Again, the difference with our Wednesdays moving forward will be the addition of the distance learning facilitator that will be able to meet with small groups of students throughout the day, depending on the need.
I'll take this one. So this is just kind of, this is really similar to something that you guys saw, I believe, at the beginning of the year. I know this was shown at one of these meetings that kind of blur together. But this is just kind of all the social emotional supports and connections that we're going to be doing for all of the kids. This isn't just for hybrid or distance learning kids. It's for all of them. They just kind of look different as they go. So the supports for students, so they still will get their Kind Kids Club and social emotional learning from Miss Hines. She is still doing like her counseling appointments. She has her intern, which the kids have gotten to meet, so she's got her help with that. We're going to still be doing daily class meetings. That'll happen to kind of keep the kids all together as much as we can, even when they're separated. We'll have daily virtual office hours, and that will look, because I know that was one of the questions that got asked about not having instruction from 1:30 to 3. We will have that designated office hour time still, and that's going to be really important for the kids who are in hybrid and not on campus. So on their track days where they're not with us and they're home, that's a really great time for them to come meet with us when they didn't see their hybrid teachers during the day or on campus during the day. We're going to still do like spirit weeks. Like earlier this year, we had Red Ribbon Week. We'll do more of that kind of stuff. We have our school-wide mindfulness skills, so we're always focusing on that. Like I said, counseling support for Miss Hines. And then as far as supports for families, kind of like what we've been doing, we've got the virtual parent education nights. Sammy Circuit's been doing a great job with his family nights. We've been really lucky to have those. There's counseling support for parents as well. We'll keep sending that weekly update to you guys so you know what's going on in the whole third grade team. Ms. Kaler is going to continue to send her update email, and there's always going to be that opportunity for you guys to reach out to us as things come up. So that is all the social emotional support and connections that we'll be providing for you and your kids.
And then lastly, I don't know, third grade, if you want to talk about this or if you want me to, but I can go ahead and go through it. Safety and movement and lunches around school. So coming and leaving school in the morning, our drop-off time, there is a staggered drop-off. So we actually have a window of time. So it has that soft start. Students can come in starting at 8:10 until 8:30, and they'll go directly to the classroom. And then they'll go to their designated spot within the classroom. They will have a designated route. So they will go through the main gate for third grade and go straight back. And then there's going to be directional arrows on the ground showing if you're going in, you stay on the right-hand side. If you're leaving, you're on the left-hand side. So that stuff will be around. Face coverings, masks are required for all students. This is TK through 5th grade. Staff is required to wear masks, and then visitors, though visitors will be limited to no visitors at all as of this point. Classrooms for recess and breaks. The classes will have a specific recess time, and they will have a designated recess area. So each of the hybrid classes within here, so Miss Monroy's class, Miss Caraballo's class, and Miss Perez's class would have a designated area. So one of them might be the basketball court area one day, and then the grass another day, but they will not intermingle. And the same thing actually goes for lunch too. The students will have a designated table that they sit at, and it will be with another person from their same class. So we're keeping those cohorts together. The students will be required to wash their hands and hand sanitize when leaving the classroom, entering the classroom, before eating lunch, after eating lunch, before playing, after playing, kind of all the time. And we do have some portable hand washing stations that will come in addition to the ones that are already around campus. Another thing to note that's not on here is that our water fountains are covered. However, we are getting water bottle refilling stations. So we would highly encourage you to send your child with a water bottle every day, and then they will be able to refill it at school if they need to do that. There will be a break spot outside of the classroom that if a child needs to take a break from wearing their mask, they'll be able to take a break for a few minutes outside of the classroom and then come back in and have their mask on. Screening procedures at this time, the public health direction is that families and staff are screening at home. And when in doubt, sit it out. So if you have any kind of sickness things, whether it is coughing, sneezing, a temperature, any symptoms, we would like you to stay at home and isolate there. Even if you have a regular cold, we would prefer that you stay home. And we do have the ability for your child to jump in to the virtual classroom. So they are not missing out by any means. We actually have the ability to accommodate them if they're sick and need to be at home. Did I hear somebody jumping in? Okay. And then for lunchtime, once again, it will be with the individual grade levels. They have a 20-minute lunch period, which that's actually the same as what it's always been. They always had 20 minutes to eat and then they had 20 minutes to play. The thing that we took away is the 20 minutes to play, and that was to shorten our school day, but the teachers will be doing recess breaks within their classroom at different times. And then students will be assigned once again to a table. Either at the tables that are already out there, or we'll set tables outside, additional tables outside, potentially also rolling up the doors in the NPR and setting tables in there. And if it's inclement weather, then students will have lunches within the classroom. All right, and it looks like that's the end of our presentation. So I'm going to go out of sharing my screen. And then we will go ahead and answer any questions that you might have.
So third grade team, it looks like there's some clarifying questions about hybrid. Hybrid, when you're on your virtual days, is not self-directed. So could you please explain what, if you're the kid that's on A track, for instance, and you're at school Monday, Tuesday, what your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would look like in that hybrid model?
So I think we put this in the slide when Mrs. Carball was talking about it earlier. So actually, Mr. Hillig talked about the Wednesday. So Wednesdays are going to stay exactly how they are now. So that will be that self-directed independent day with the exception of morning meeting. And the one thing that will change is we have the distance learning facilitator, Mrs. Luna. She's going to be kind of an extra support that we currently don't have on Wednesdays. So that will be a nice little advantage there. And then on Thursday, Friday, so just for example, if your student is in track A and they're with their hybrid teacher on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, they will be home and they will be they will have the option to log in to the lessons from Mr. Hillig. So they're still getting their learning and they're still getting their lessons. And then once they've gotten that direct instruction, they will go to do the independent work, which is very similar to what we're doing now. The kids go into like their breakout rooms and they are working independently. So it'll be a similar instruction to now that direct instruction on the Thursday, Friday, or the Monday, Tuesday will just look a little bit different for the kids who are at home. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
So the only thing I would add to that is it is required that the students do jump in on their virtual learning days to the extended distance learning teacher for the direct instruction. And then they also have access to that distance learning facilitator. Once the lesson is done being taught, they can go in and get support from that distance learning facilitator. So just a little bit more clarification on that.
So I was answering in the chat about the question. We'll start 8:10, Ms. Kaler, for soft start. So it's a rolling soft start. So students can start arriving on campus at 8:10. They'll head directly to their classroom. And that 20 minutes will help us stagger the population going straight to the classrooms. And then classes will begin promptly at 8:30.
With kindergarten,
and
though, I
that's,
do see a question with kindergarten. I don't know if that's attached to it.
yeah, I was
Kindergarten.
going back to that.
Okay, so to add to that, kindergarten starts at 9 o'clock, but their soft start starts at 8:40. They cannot come in with the bigger kids. That would defeat the purpose of having the staggered start. But my recommendation would be, if you have a child that's in 3rd grade or an upper grade, and you have a child in kindergarten, I would probably come closer to that 8:30 time. So there's only 10 minutes between. Get the older child in and then have your kindergartner come in. So the question about why don't they jump into direct instruction with the classroom teacher instead of the distance learning teacher? This is completely going back to our model that we have built. So on the slideshow, it was one of the first slides. Having that model where the teachers are navigating both in person and online. If we talk to a lot of the area schools, they are saying it is burning out the teachers and the students really are not getting the best instruction in person or online. And so that's why we completely rebuilt a model, and the students that are in person, the teachers working with them in person and focusing on them there. And then the distance learning, if they are virtual, they are able to tune into that teacher. And then we have the extra distance learning facilitator to help with additional support for those students. That way, when they're in that model, it is much easier to know what's going on and tune in and pay attention when there's less chaos going on of the teacher trying to navigate problems on a computer with problems in the classroom, with trying to help students with problems online. It really lets them focus on what the need is for the group that's in front of them. So that directly goes to our model that we've built and why we built that model. And if you want further explanation, if you go on our YouTube page for Natomas Charter School, the October meeting, I went into depth about that.
Ms. Kaler, can you address the instructional minutes and how the model maintains those instructional minutes, even though it looks a little different with the in-person hybrid? I think some of the parents have asked questions about the actual instructional minutes.
So we're actually exceeding our instructional minutes. Off the top of my head, I do not remember the exact number of minutes, but we're over minutes for instruction based on what is required for this school year under COVID. It is in some of our previous presentations. It's in there. I'm trying to think of where else you have access to it. It's posted in a few different places. I know it's on previous presentations. 3rd grade, do you remember offhand how many minutes you guys are? It's also reflected on the Schoology. It reflects in there. You would just have to read the title and it says how many minutes. And if you add all of them together, that says how many minutes that they actually have for the day. And we're over quite a few minutes per day for what's required. I know that didn't specifically answer your question. Did we miss any other questions, Francesca? We have about 2 more minutes.
I noticed one about just clarifying about if the students have a morning meeting on their home days. Yes. So if they are a hybrid virtual day, they will still be logging in with their regular class on Zoom. So that'll be the one time of the day where we have the in-person students and the virtual students together. And again, that's just to really maintain that classroom community and those connections with their classmates that they might not get to see in person. So yes, it will be every day. And then that also gives a chance for the students on extended distance learning with Ms. DeHillig to have that really great designated time to build class community before the other hybrid students join in for those direct lessons so that they can still have that morning meeting time as well.
Any other questions? It looks like we answered most all these questions that I can see scrolling through really quickly. All right. So we're going to go ahead and complete this meeting, and I'm going to stop recording. Please know that you can always reach out to any of us that are on here or the office staff if you have any questions. We're here to help. Ms. Hines is also here to help if with this transition, if your child is nervous or your family needs some resources, she is a great resource of information. And we're once again all here to support you. On Friday, I will be emailing your child's teacher and then their track that they picked. And along with that, I will attach the recording to this meeting along with the presentation that was presented tonight so that you have that. And then once again, if you have any other questions, please let us know and have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us. I see somebody waving.